As modern Christians, we have an idea that the earliest Christians were just one small organized group with all the right answers, and that time and wrong answers are what led everything astray. But let me just put some things in perspective for you. During the rise of Christianity, it began as a sect inside Judaism, and after that, a Gentile movement formed of it. But just listen to this list of what really were different denominations. You had civilian, non-religious Jews becoming Christian Jews. You had Sadducees becoming Christian Jews. You had the followers of Paul. You had Christian Jews getting circumcised. You had new Christian Jews opting out of circumcision. You had Christian Jews abandoning all or part of the Mosaic law in practice. Several sects might comprise that category alone. You had Christian Jews upholding all or part of the Mosaic law in practice. You had Gentiles getting circumcised and converting to Christian Judaism. You had Gentiles not getting circumcised and converting to Christian Judaism. Gentile Christians rejecting the Mosaic law. Gentile Christians adopting the Mosaic law. Gentile Christian Jews. Jewish Christians celebrating Passover on Nisan 14. Christian Jews celebrating Passover on Nisan 15. This dispute later came to be called Quarto-Decimonism, and it was tied to the date the resurrection was celebrated. You had Jewish Christians not celebrating Passover. You had Jewish Essenes becoming Christian Jews. You had Jewish Essenes adopting one of several Gentile forms of Christianity. You had Jewish Zealots becoming Christians. You had Jewish Zealots adopting one of several forms of Gentile Christianity. You had Pharisaic Jews becoming Christian Jews but retaining their doctrinal views like disbelief in resurrection. We learn about some of these sects, which the earliest historian in the church, Hegesippus, writes and narrows down to 7. We don't have the writings of Hegesippus anymore, but we know he existed, and we know his work existed because Eusebius, in his ecclesiastical history of the church, references Hegesippus in his footnotes and includes some of the writings of Hegesippus in his work itself. So we know he existed, we know what some of his work was, unless you believe that Eusebius not only made up a guy, but made up the footnotes and made up what he said, which is pretty rare. That the evidentiary standard would certainly look at the work of Hegesippus as just fine and probably just as valid as anyone else's, even though we don't have original copies of it. So, more interesting stuff about Christianity. My gracious, talk to you next time.